Hey, what's up? It's your man Tony Wiggins here. It's your special post-game podcast here as the Jags fall to the Washington Commanders. We'll give it to you right now here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, I'm Tony Wiggins. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you make us your first listen because it's your team every day, and we are free on all platforms. Glad to have you join me. Wish I had you join me under better circumstances. Today, the Jacksonville Jaguars traveled up to the nation's capital on 9/11, and we would like to, first of all, remember that we will never forget the troops and everyone else who made a sacrifice, as well as their families, on this day in 2001. We will always remember you. That being said, today's game was also a little bit memorable. It had its moments. Of course, we had the obligatory Jaguar fans early in the game that wanted to give away their season tickets and say it was a regret and it was the same old team. Eventually, the Jags did fall 28-22, but it was not without a ferocious rally and one that gave away and gave us a little bit of information about the team. First and foremost, got off to an atrocious start today. They left points on the board, miscues. Trevor was off early, overthrowing. Could have been because of excitement, could have been because of whatever, mechanics. But he seemed like he was throwing the ball high. A couple of balls were catchable, though. I would say Zay Jones' ball that he dropped in the end zone probably should have been caught, since we've seen him catch those balls a lot during the preseason. Travis Etienne should have caught what would have been a touchdown early, and the Jaguars ended up settling for a field goal. Later on, they went for it again from inside the 5-yard line on fourth down, blew it, just missed it. And they probably could have used those 3 points, just take the points. Then they went for 2 early. So you saw a little bit of Doug Peterson doing what Doug Peterson is known to do, and that's chase points. Well, when those things don't work, especially for a team that's a bad team, with an organization that's not used to winning, those things will be criticized. It's hard to criticize a guy who's won a Super Bowl doing exactly that. And most of the time, we don't remember that that's what's in these folks' DNA. This is who they are and is what they do. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't criticize them, especially hindsight being 2020. You can go back and look and say this game would have gone a lot different had he taken those points. Those are all valid. But then what seemed to happen is they also missed the field goal that hit the upright as they were going to half. That could have been a significant. So you're thinking maybe at the least maybe 15 points. Well, not the least. At the least 12 points, maybe 15 were left on the field. The Jags should have been way behind, but they weren't. They were closer than you wanted to, that you could imagine them being. They were only down 14-3. They came out in the second half and played the way we all thought, or we all hoped that they'd be able to play. Travon Walker. Let me answer this question for those right now that, especially the people around the country, that go back to draft night and wonder, did they take the right person? Damn Skippy, they took the right person. A sack and an interception that he almost got loose for and set free and returned for a touchdown. So Travon Walker is everything that he was advertised to be. I thought he got a little winded late in the game, and that could be because Washington started to control the ball and he didn't really pin his ears back and get after it. Those are things that he's going to learn as he moves forward. James Robinson. It seemed like the Jaguars forgot about him for a minute because they were so they wanted to really go out and do their thing passing the ball. But in the third quarter, they had to come back home to James Robinson. I'm thinking they might have had him on a little bit of a pitch count as well, and that's because he didn't play in the preseason. And the other thing is he's coming back from an injury. But he started, and he shows that he is one of the 2 or 3 best options on this team offensively, and he's one of the 5 or 6 best players on this team. And moving forward, I feel real good about him. And Travis Etienne, after a little bit of a shaky start, sort of got going and did some things that made you really, really believe that, okay, he can play too. All right, so I'm going to get to all of those things, and I'm going to tell you here today what they need to do moving forward. And, you can cry over spilled milk. There's a lot of teams around the league that lost games today that they weren't supposed to lose. But here, the Jaguars fell to 28-22. I'm going to talk about when I get back, is it the same old team? Because I know there are a lot of people that have had that opinion today. It's one that I disagree with, but it's something else that I said on the Friday show. If you go back and look at it, and I'll tell you, and I'll detail all of that and tie this all together and tell you what we can do moving forward here on a special episode of Locked On Jaguars postgame. Jaguars fall 28-22 to Washington. We'll talk about it a little bit more in depth in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Well, I hope you guys had your prize picks in because I actually did. I had Christian Kirk going over his yardage, and I had Trevor Lawrence going above the 235 yards that they had him going for. So I'm still in action. I got 5. I chose a five-player entry. So we'll see what the late games do for me. But you can do the same thing because it's your daily fantasy entries and player projections, and you can say whether you think they're going more or less. You do that at PrizePicks, and you get a chance to win up to 10 times your money that you lay down on your selections. Yeah, this is what you do. Download the PrizePicks apps or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users, you get a 100% instant deposit match for up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit 100, they give you 100. They match it. If you give them 50, they'll put 50 into your account for you to go ahead and use those promo dollars to make that wager. So don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On and sign up for an instant match of up to $100 at prizepicks.com. Also, don't forget to get you some insurance on your watches and rings and jewelry. Don't be the idiot like me who goes to Mexico and jumps into the ocean with a ring that slides off. I think my wife even lost an earring. And I didn't have none of this stuff. I had none of it insured. And that's my fault. That's right. It's nobody else's fault. It's my fault because I should have had BriteCo insurance. It takes you 5 minutes to get insured at BriteCo. That's right. 5. It'll save you so much money and so many headaches when you lose your jewelry. It's just simple, man. You can get that stuff covered in minutes on your cell phone, and BriteCo will turn the whole experience around for you, so it makes you real comfortable about your jewelry. For $5 a month, you can get totally comprehensive coverage, and it won't take you more than 2 minutes on your cell phone. So check it out at Bright/./co/Locked On. That's Bright/./co/Locked On. All right, man, we're rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars. I am Tony Wiggins here on a day the Jaguars kind of sent us into euphoria a little bit, made some people angry up front, saying that they wanted to cancel their season ticket, saying that this is the same old Jaguars team. There's nothing different about this team. I don't agree with that. I do think that you can't. I said on the Friday show, don't make any rash decisions or observations about the team that lead you to thinking that this is the way it's going to be. And right there in the second or in the third quarter, they started, making sure they didn't have all these self-inflicted wounds. And all of a sudden, all of the people that said they wanted to cancel their tickets probably did not feel that way because it appeared the Jaguars were headed to a victory. But here's what a young team has to remember. The young team has to remember playing. You cannot use all of your energy up trying to come back from disaster early. And I think that's what they did, and they kind of ran out of energy. I also think the coaches, we're going to not let them off the hook. I think the coaches have some things that they need to learn. Doug may stop chasing points, especially when the team is so young, and those things can be kind of deflating. And then I think Mike Caldwell may have gotten a little bit too soft later on in his defense. Now, earlier I thought that there were some people who had been picked up and drafted that didn't look so high. I thought Foye Oluokun and Devin Lloyd early looked slow, but then they looked fast when the Jaguars started playing better. I thought Tyson Campbell was about to be a first-team All-Pro when he got his interception. And then he looked like the Tyson Campbell of old, who didn't find the ball on the long touchdown by Jahan Dotson that put Washington up for good. I also, got to give Josh Allen credit for early on. He played the run really well. And then he had a big tackle for loss early in the game that sort of started to change things defensively. Now, let me get to the other good. Christian Kirk was worth the money. Christian Kirk had 112 yards receiving on the day. It's 7 or 8 catches. I think I have that exact amount for you here in just a second. Yeah, Christian Kirk actually had he had 6 receptions for 117 yards. Zay Jones was as good as advertised, as good as he had been. Also, the offensive line that we have talked about over the last couple of years, especially at some point, I don't know if it's everybody on the left side or I don't know if it's the work between the guard and the left guard. They need work. Also, late in the game, Walker Little came in for, I don't know if Juwan Taylor was injured, but Walker Little came in and got a false start. Bad situation to get to get a false start. It's just a terrible look. You can't get in those long down and distance, and this was on the last drive. So now the team gets more desperate. They have to clean up the penalties. There were a couple of penalties on third downs when they could have gotten Washington off the field. They got personal fouls. DeJuan Smoot had a terrible personal foul, roughing the passer, that would have gotten the Jaguars the ball back as they were trying to turn the corner. So you have to clean that stuff up. And guys have to stop jumping off sides. I think Foye Oluwakan did it late in the game. Travon Walker did it early. Now, they were saying that Lito, the left tackle, was flinching and moving, and the referee has to do a better job of catching it. But there's still no excuse that when you're sitting right there looking at the ball for you to jump off sides. So a lot to clean up from the players, a lot to clean up from the coaches, a lot to be optimistic about. But now they got to grow up and they got to change. So we'll see if the Jaguars can do that moving forward. We'll have a full podcast for you tomorrow and discuss everything in detail about today's loss and what it means moving forward. Until then, you guys take care of each other. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of opening day in the National Football League. And I'll see you tomorrow.